I love the Catholicity of our Catholic faith. In other words, I really enjoy how universal and global we are. Here at the USCCB, part of my job is to travel across the country and around the world for the bishops on issues of laity and young people. On those journeys, I get to meet a great diversity of fellow Catholics, yet we all share a common bond in Jesus Christ. Now, one could argue that this expansive worldwide community of the faithful had its origins in today's gospel on the feast of St. Matthew, when Jesus called this disciple to follow him. Up until that moment in the Gospels, the people that Jesus surrounded himself with were mostly the working poor of Galilee, and as such were probably overburdened with heavy taxes. And into this mix of first-century taxation politics, Jesus throws a curveball. You see, Matthew was a tax collector who sat comfortably in his customs post while the rest of the Galileans sweated under the Mediterranean sun for a living. Yet Jesus called him into his inner circle, along with some of the very people who may have been hurt by Matthew's taxation policies. In this act, Jesus expanded his circle of trust, bringing together people on opposing sides of a political issue. We can just imagine the dinner in this gospel, where Jesus sat between the heavily taxed and the ones doing the heavy taxing, between what we might call hardworking blue-collar labor and comfortably living white-collar professionals. They had to put aside their differences and see each other as beloved sons and daughters of God, united by Jesus sitting in their midst. From this point on, Jesus' circle kept widening. We know the 12 apostles would expand to include devout, temple-focused Jews and religious zealots, freedom fighters and Judean financiers. Now, to our ears, such diversity may not resonate as it did in the first century, but trust me, this was a big deal. And at Pentecost, the early Christians took this expansive spirit even further to include Jews and Gentiles and those from many other cultural and ethnic families. Now, our global faith community, all 1.39 billion of us, encompasses a rich blend of humanity. It is why we profess one holy, Catholic, and apostolic faith, as these words speak to the vastness of who we are. And it all began with a simple invitation by Jesus, which widened the Lord's first inner circle. How wide is our own circle of trust? Scholars note that from the dawn of humanity, we have been prone to create close-knit communities for survival. Every time humans expand these circles, our survival chances increase. By contrast, when we divide or create smaller circles, our rates of survival and safety decrease. It seems with this metric in mind, Jesus wants us to live abundant lives by showing us that we need to keep expanding and widening our communities. By calling Matthew and sitting with tax collectors, simple working class folk, and many others, he invites us to imitate him and to widen our world. Who are the Matthews in your life who you may pass by every day because they aren't in your inner circle? Jesus invites us to speak to them like he did. The Catholic Church's circle of trust now encompasses at least 1.39 billion people. So on this feast of St. Matthew, representing the first widening of the Lord's inner circle, may we all keep expanding our communities and experience a universal Catholicity at work with all the people that we encounter.